Welcome to the Feast Life, where we empower you, the modern homeschool mom, to create a life and homeschool you love. One founded on faith, family, freedom, and fun. I'm your host, Julie Ross, creator of the award-winning homeschool curriculum, A Gentle Feast, and a certified Christian life coach. For more information on today's episode and to access my free gift for you, check out thefeastlife.me. Charlotte Mason once said, "Life should be all living, not a mere tedious passing of time." So on this show, we seek to savor the feast of life. Girl, grab your favorite beverage and pull up a chair. You are welcome at this table. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Feast Life. I am so glad you're here. Today, I am talking to my friend, Christy-Faith. Welcome to the table, girl.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Just an excuse to spend time with you.
I know, we've already been talking for an hour, but that's okay. So now we're actually going to hit record and share our conversation with everybody. And I'm so excited to introduce my audience to you to my audience. I was on your podcast, and so I got to meet some of your people, message me on Instagram and stuff, which was super fun. And so I'm so excited for my audience to get to know you. So girl, fill us in of your journey and how you are at this point where you just wrote a book, and we're going to talk about that too.
I know, it's so crazy. Yes, I do have a book coming out, and probably by the time this airs, it'll be out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You can get the book on Amazon. It's called Homeschool Rising, but it's a crazy story. Do you guys know I'm a TikToker? That's how I started.
Yeah, I'm really bad at that. My daughter was trying to explain to me today how you had a TikTok and I can duet it or something.
Yes.
I don't know anything about it.
And I will say it was the golden day of the TikTok. Now I feel like I get on that app and every other video is like Home Shopping Network, which I refuse to schlep product for you, TikTok. Thank you very much. So you might need to find me on Instagram now. I mean, I'm still posting on TikTok, but I'm just falling out of love right at this particular moment. But yeah, so I got on TikTok not on purpose. Initially, I happened to have been in makeup that day and my hair was done because I happened to go to church that morning. And I was like, I am really mad. I feel like everybody, because I got on TikTok and I searched for homeschoolers. And it was either people coming out of COVID who were just complaining about having their kids home. Okay, I get it. We all know that's not homeschooling. Even they know it's not homeschooling. That was crisis schooling, but it was negativity. So it was a lot of negativity around being around your kids all day and trying to educate them. Total grace for these parents who had full-time jobs and then this was thrown on them overnight. Absolutely. Okay. And then there was the homeschoolers. And I felt like everyone was playing defense constantly in all of our space. Everyone feels cornered all of the time. Like, no, my kid is socialized. Or no, we're going to go to college. My kid is getting a good education. And because I had done the research, because Scott and I chose to homeschool our kids based on valid evidence and data, I was like, we don't really need to be in this defensive cowering stance when it comes to us explaining why we are homeschooling our kids. We have the data. We have the data that proves this is an amazing choice, a valid choice, better prepares our kids for college. And so one day I was like, someone needs to be playing offense. So I did. And it happened to be, I think it was just the right timing for everything because it happened to be back in that day, you could be wild on TikTok and say whatever you wanted. And things are a lot different now. But that's my very first video that I posted. It went viral overnight. I could not eat for 6 weeks. I was like, what just happened? I talked to my friends like, this is nuts. And everyone in my life was like, you should have an open mind regarding, is this an opportunity? Is this something you're supposed to be doing with chapter 2 of your life? So previously, Scott and I've been in education for over 20 years. Scott and I ran a boutique learning center and consulting firm in Los Angeles. We taught the kids of the rich and famous. We got them into IVs. We did test prep, reading interventions. We did all of that. We even ran a homeschool in the mornings. But I wasn't, we had sold our company and moved to Colorado, and I was loving the stay at home mom homeschool life. And so I
Yeah.
wasn't really planning to do a second career. But I think that God had a different plan for me.
Yeah.
It was very clear. And then fast forward 9 months into that, around 9 months, 10 months, 11, I don't even remember, a publisher came to me and they said, we want more books in the homeschooling space and we want you to write it. And I could not believe that people were, it's like, what can I even write a book? Do I know how? The answer is no, I did not know how. That is, if you're wondering. So it was
I think that's what everybody says. Yes.
yeah, yeah, a graduate paper, yes, I can do that. So I fumbled through the whole process, but I never gave up. I never gave up because I cannot tell you how many drafts I thought were just complete crap. Can I say that on your podcast?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We
Throw it
keep
in
it
the
real.
trash. Okay. And but I'm happy with the product now. I feel like it's doing what I initially my heart wanted the book to do, and I'm really proud of it now. But it was a journey getting there. Anybody who's going through something hard or trying to do something really hard right now, I just don't want you to feel alone. Like,
Yeah.
hard things are really hard and you don't know how to do them. And I was at the point where I felt like how a lot of our kids feel who maybe have ADHD, where like this
Yeah.
task is so huge and I
Yeah.
don't even know how to break it down. Like,
Mm.
how do
Where do I
professionals
start?
do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually had to get some help from
Yeah.
professionals that knew how to organize. This is a great computer program to use, Christy. Oh, this is a computer program that authors use. Okay. Anyway, it got done, many drafts, many tears, and it's here. So thank you. Yeah.
And I'm so proud of you. It's fantastic. One of the things I really appreciate about it is it has such a unique perspective of it applies to all homeschoolers. So it's not just Charlotte
Yes.
Mason or just classical or just whatever. There's a lot of mom encouragement books out there regarding homeschooling, which I'm so grateful for. Those were like my lifeline in moments where I was like on the bathroom floor, like, I can't leave the bathroom, kids. And so I'm so grateful for those mom encouragement type books. But yours is like a homeschooling like manifesto. And I don't feel like there are books like that on the market, especially written by actual homeschool moms and not like educational theorists and like things that like, or you read them and you're like, okay, this is as boring as sawdust. Like, you're real, you're funny, you're engaging, you have real life stories. And it's, oh, I could totally relate to this lady. And for me, even being in this 20 years, it's like fuel for the fire. And I feel like so many moms, especially we're recording this in February, this time of year, are like, why am I doing this? This is so hard. I'm totally screwing up my kids. Let me start planning next school year because that sounds fun and exciting. Totally neglect what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And I always tell people, you have to go back to your why and find your purpose and your passion, and that will ignite you and motivate you on those really hard days, like you're talking about on the hard day when you didn't want to write the book. Why am I writing this? What am I doing? And so I feel like your book is like that fuel to the flame. So I don't know if you realized that. It was like, what was your intention? This is what I'm going to be writing about. This is the topics here.
Okay, so I went the route of what you shouldn't do when you're writing a book. They always say narrow your audience, right? So
Yeah.
are you writing directly to homeschool mothers? Are you writing to the professional field, the
Yeah.
pediatric field? Are you writing to naysayers? Who are you actually writing to? But I kept coming back to I'm writing to all of them
Mm,
because what I know is the worst naysayer is in our own minds.
yes.
We are our worst naysayers. We tell toxic lies to ourselves all the time.
Yep.
And so I was like, how do I write a book that someone can hand their mother-in-law who is criticizing their homeschooling, she can hand it to her pediatrician who's grilling her about socialization
Yeah,
at a
yeah.
regular yearly visit, but also read herself and be like, why would I choose anything else? Why would I?
Yes.
So the
I
fact
definitely
that
get that.
I have, and in my first chapter, I address those three audiences and why, what I hope to get out of them to get out of the book. Is that bad writing? It might be, but I'm a new book writer.
No, I think
But that's
good.
what I hoped
Yeah,
to achieve. And it was a big nut to crack.
it is. Yeah.
And maybe I didn't do it well. Maybe I did some parts of it well. And it's funny because my favorite chapter always changes. Deschooling, I was like, I love this deschooling chapter. I want everyone to read my deschooling chapter. And then it's another chapter about, yeah. And there's a chapter I had to delete, which is sad because I was over word count.
Yes. Yeah, that's hard for sure. I think what makes you such a person who should be talking about this, right, is your background and your experience. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of learning center and the work that you
Sure.
were doing there and how that led you and your husband to decide to homeschool? Because you bring that up in the book a lot, but I think it's so
Yeah.
important because even those of us who homeschool saying, I want to homeschool because I want to provide my children a different kind of education than the one I received, we
Yes.
so easily fall into the trap of making our school homeschool look exactly like the school that we didn't want to have our
Yeah.
children be in.
Yes. We do. Yeah. I'll start here. We were running a homeschool out of our center for a very long time. However, that homeschool was utilitarian. So we were in Los Angeles. It was pre pro athletes, quite a few actors, kids who were expelled in between schools for a season. We loved those kids. They're just all misunderstood. And so they were great kids. But when I started to read up on homeschooling to make my homeschool better at my center, at the
Mm,
time we were hiring certified teachers and using certified curriculum because heaven forbid if we ever have to matriculate this kid back, they need to be ready, right?
right.
Keep in mind, I'm not deconstructed yet. That was Pandora's box because when you start reading homeschooling books, then you're like, what? There's
Yes.
different pedagogies? Wait a minute, wait a minute. What? Why are these kids learning Latin? Like, that makes no sense. And I actually remember going to a homeschool conference and walking up to one of the big classical guys and saying, really, Latin? I live in California. At the time, I lived in California. Shouldn't my kids be learning Spanish?
Yeah.
It was so I wasn't disrespectful, but now I'm super embarrassed that I did anything like that. So
No, I think that's a very legit question, actually.
yeah, and I was not deschooled. I was not deschooled. I was completely a product of the environment. I went through the public schools myself. So, what we started to see, and this goes to why we chose homeschooling for our own family. We worked with the kids of the very wealthy. There were unlimited resources. We're talking, we had a lot of our clients, these kids never even stepped foot on a commercial jet. They only flew private. These were A-list celebrities, the producers, the people even more powerful than the A-list celebrities where you don't know their names, but they're actually more powerful. Those were the kids that we taught. It was just the area that we were in and the type of service we provided. It attracted those because it was an extremely like very concierge type service. Those kids still struggle. They still need reading intervention. They still have dyslexia. They still have ADHD, anxiety disorders. So every single day I was reading IEPs. And most of these kids were, of course, their needs were not being met in either the public or private school that they were in.
Mm,
And we were hired to solve the problems that these schools could not solve.
right.
And so that gets you start to think, wow, these parents are having to go private to get these kids to learn to read. It's not
Mhm.
happening in the reading interventions. This is just an example with reading.
Yeah,
It's not
right.
happening with those interventions, this and that. But here's the deal. We worked with kids all the way through 12th grade. You would think that if you had unlimited resources to all the tutoring in the world, all the intervention, all the vision therapy, all this, all that, wouldn't you think outcomes would be better? Wouldn't you think kids would be happier?
Right.
They weren't. And
Right.
it really ate me. It just got under my skin because the outcomes aren't better. These kids were suffering from depression. They were I want to say like college failure to thrive, which we see a lot of going off to a college and coming back by Thanksgiving. And all these things after these parents spent thousands upon thousands of dollars to get them the test prep they needed, the college
Yeah.
counselor to get them into that Ivy League school. And it just cracked the glass a little bit for me. What's
Yeah.
going on here?
You got to see behind the curtain. Yeah.
I did. And it's because we often think about it, I often use different analogies to explain because it helps for me.
Yeah.
It's like dieting. Like we'll say, if I could hire a
Mm,
professional chef like Oprah
yeah.
can, of course
Yeah.
I'd be skinny,
Yeah.
right? It's the same scenario. No, you wouldn't necessarily be skinny. It's the same thing like we think, oh, if I can afford the quarterback coach, my kid might be able to get a college scholarship for sports or we
Right.
do that. We do that to ourselves. Anyway, I can
Absolutely.
tell you here right now, that the outcomes aren't better. These kids are equally as miserable. And I'm not using that word flippantly. There is a crisis in mental health, especially with teenagers in our
Yes,
country.
absolutely.
The
Yep.
majority of the teenagers that we worked with were incredibly troubled, engaging in very dangerous behaviors, self-sabotage, needing therapy, concerning, highly
Very
concerning. So
concerning.
I'm looking at this saying, do I want this for my kids? We had a history of infertility, so I was able to be in the workspace running our center for a lot of years before we had our first child. I'm an older mother, and it required infertility treatments and things like that to have the kids that we have now. But so I had time
Yeah.
to really, in my adult life, to observe and think about what is an education. And that was the question that made it all come tumbling down. It led us to selling our center. It led us to homeschooling our kids and doing what I do now, because I truly believe in the bottom of my heart that there is no better place to educate a child than in a loving home with a motivated parent. And no, not everyone can homeschool. No, not everyone should homeschool, but that shouldn't stop us.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that's not an ideal situation.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of parents
Exactly.
view it as maybe this isn't ideal, maybe this isn't, and so I
Yeah.
feel like your book was really just so motivating of showing no and talking about those studies and talking about your experience of we think the be all end all is getting like a good SAT score and a college scholarship, and that's not. Like these
No.
children are suffering, and that
Yeah.
so much pressure and everything is put on them. And it reminded me, I actually was a tutor outside of DC and for foreign ambassadors, and someone hired me to come and tutor their 5-year-old for reading. And I had been a kindergarten teacher. I was like, great. I was one of 4 tutors this 5-year-old had. He was so stressed. He was on medication for anxiety already because he was
Oh.
so stressed because of all the academic pressure that was put on him. And I'd be like, okay, well, if
Yeah.
we can get all of this done, and I was playing reading games, if we can get all done in 15 minutes, then for the last 15 minutes, we'll play. Let me tell you how long I lasted, about 3 weeks, right? My mom said,
Yeah.
"Then I'll hire you to play." And I was like, boy,
Oh.
is missing out on his childhood, which is, and I feel like we're able to see that as homeschool moms, right? Of the
Yes.
gift that we've given our children of letting them have a slow childhood and having play,
Yes.
and that's not a distraction from education. That is where they're learning so many different things. I
Right.
love in the book you said that you're pro homeschooling because children are persons, which is what Charlotte Mason says. And then you listed 3 things I want to dive into. You said homeschooling allows for tailored academics,
Mhm.
it instills a love of learning, and it promotes social and emotional well-being, which is what you've already hit on. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that tailored academic piece, if you don't mind.
Yes. Yeah, and your listeners already know this because of the amazing work you do in the Charlotte Mason world as a thought leader, and that there are different ways to educate a child. And even within, I know you would agree with this too, is even within the Charlotte Mason world, we still want to be students of our own children, and we want to modify what we are doing. That's what I love about your curriculum is you've made it really easy for us to adapt on a daily basis. We can change things up so easily without messing up everything else. And
Right.
which is often how curriculum is written poorly. But yeah, I think that all kids learn differently. They learn at different paces. And for some reason, we have been indoctrinated in our society to believe that by the age of 5, developmental inconsistencies, for lack of a better word, no longer exist. Meaning, it was okay if your kid walked at 7 months or didn't walk till 15 months. No one was concerned. But all of a sudden, and I used to give these reading
Yeah.
tests. When
Yep.
I would give a reading test to assess where a child was, it actually assesses them by year and
Yep.
month, and then compares them to everybody else.
Yep.
Just think that why have we done this as a society? And the answer
Um,
is standardized education. The answer is there's no other way to mass educate children
yes.
without putting them within a system that regulates what they're learning any given year. There's just no other way. So make no mistake, that system was not created in the best interest of children.
Hmm.
The compulsory education system in America, and I am including private schools in this, if you are mass educating children,
Yeah.
how could that possibly be in the best interest of your own child? It's
Right.
not. They have
Yeah.
to get the job done. A
Yeah.
lot of kids do just fine with that. But a lot of us say, no, I want something better. I want something different. I want something better. I want something more custom. I have a co op 3 minutes from my door. And but it's like one of those academic, it's a homeschool one,
Hmm.
but they're too restrictive with the curriculum we have to use. So we're not a part of it because
Yeah.
I want to always have the opportunity to look at what learner I have right in front of me, what is going to be the best course of action all the way through high school. Is this child college bound, or are we
Yeah.
looking more at art schools or
Yep.
degree free, which
Yep.
is also amazing. I'm about to interview somebody on my podcast who is in the multiple six figures degree free
Mm.
homeschool
Oh,
graduate.
Steve
So
Jobs, right?
yeah. So anyway, it's just it's exciting to me how, and I feel like you were a teacher, so as I feel like if anything, we have to deconstruct even harder because we were
Mm.
in it and we taught it and we're like,
Yes.
standards. And so I feel like it's, if you are a mom listening and you're like, but I don't have a teaching credential, just know from my perspective, you probably have to do less work than I did.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. No, I totally agree, and I totally see that, and it took me
Yeah.
probably just like a year or 2 of homeschooling for me to get out of that mindset of it has
Oh,
to be this way and fall this way. I think because my last year of teaching, I was so disenchanted with everything, and I was so
yeah.
heartbroken. I was teaching 5th grade, and I had no students in my class who were reading at grade level when they came into.
Oh,
Most of them were 3rd and below, and I had some that were on 1st grade, and it broke my heart to see these kids and just there was only so much I could do. I have to teach this test, and I have to teach them these 5 things on the history test that they have to know these facts about
right.
World War II, and I'm like, "They can't read."
It's who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares? It's so funny because I get grilled a lot on social media about all this, and we can go there and not go there. We don't need to go there, but I'm going to go there for a second. All this
Okay.
gender ethics stuff, this gender ethics, asking a 5-year old what their pronouns are. And I'm just like, you know what hill I die on? Before we talk about those things, let's figure out if this kid's reading. What is your job, school system? Because I would just want my kid to read.
And more
Let's
important than
stay in
that,
your
like, I
lane.
want them to be able to think about what they're reading. So it's one thing
Yes.
just to learn the mechanics of can they
Yes.
actually read? Can they answer comprehension questions? Can they pass the standardized test? But at the end of the day, do they actually care about anything that they read? Probably not, because those textbooks
Yeah.
were so awful and boring.
Yes. And what I love about the Charlotte Mason philosophy, which I incorporate in my homeschool, is this deep love of reading and literature and living books. When
Yeah.
I was going through the system, we're reading, assigned reading, what we would call in California core books. I think they're probably called that in other states as well. Core books, it was work. It was work. And I just had to pass the quiz on
Mm.
Friday, and I never had a profound, and by the way, the literature that was given to me was not bad literature. We were reading Where the Red Fern Grows, and
Oh, I love
we
that
were
book.
reading beautiful stuff,
Yeah.
but because of all the ick around it,
Right.
around schooling,
Yeah.
it killed it for me. It killed any enjoyment of reading, and I didn't capture that until my adult life. And I just think
Wow.
that's one thing is with homeschooling, a goal is I just want my kids to love reading. And if they
Mhm.
do, then I've done a good job.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's I want to talk about this concept a little bit, but I wanted to read a quote. So the concept is what is the actual purpose of education? And you
oh,
talk about this a lot in your book, and I know Charlotte Mason has a lot to say about it. So I
yes.
wanted to read a quote from her, but it relates to what you just said. So I think it's really cool. This is from School Education. She said, perhaps the chief function of a teacher is to distinguish information from knowledge in the acquisitions of his pupils, because knowledge is power. The child who has got knowledge will certainly show power in dealing with it. He will recast, condense, illustrate, or narrate with vividness and with freedom
Mm-hmm.
in the arrangement of his words. The child who has only got information will write and speak in the stereotyped phrases of his textbook or will mangle in his notes the words of his teacher. And to me, that's because you're only given information, you don't have any
Yes.
ideas. You have to just regurgitate what the textbook said or what your teacher said.
Yeah.
But a child who has received knowledge, they can take it and change it and illustrate it and talk about it and make it all these different things because it actually becomes part of their personhood. So you talk
Oh,
about a little bit about this in the book, but I think it's so important for parents when they're reading this to get this or think about this for themselves. It's one of the things I tell parents before you decide any curriculum, you have to answer this question for yourself. What is the purpose of education? What do you
yeah.
think the purpose is? Because that will dictate all your decisions.
Yes. Absolutely. And our society, and the reason why we need time to really think about this question as parents is because we believe that education is vocation training.
Yes.
That's what it was designed to be. That's what we now believe that it is. And we believe a good education is the one that best prepares the kid for their future vocation.
Right.
And the ancients and Charlotte Mason and everyone super duper smart, if you look in history, they did not believe that is what an education is. This idea is in the last 150 years. It came with the Industrial Revolution. It's new. No one in colonial America, no one believed an education was first someone else's responsibility. No one believed that. It was just ludicrous to think that it wasn't the parents' responsibility to educate their kids.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really for vocation. That's why you have these our amazing thought leaders all throughout history. They were reading, the Iliad, the Odyssey. Today, people would consider those works to be irrelevant or not productive or whatever. My kid needs to know the water cycle instead. No, your kid needs to ponder big ideas instead. Who cares about the water cycle? I don't even know if my kids know the water cycle. I think I have a picture book downstairs. I'll pull it up for next week's morning time.
Okay.
We'll talk about the water cycle.
A Drop of Water is a really great book.
Okay.
Today's episode is brought to you by A Gentle Feast. A Gentle Feast offers a complete living books curriculum, an award-winning early reading program, and more tools to equip you to apply Charlotte Mason's timeless philosophy into your modern homeschool. Go to agentlefeast.com to check it out. Smooth and easy days are closer than you think.
I think that's the one I have downstairs. I got to tell you, okay, you can edit this part out or not, but I started homeschooling in a super embarrassing way that we can talk about. I really regret how I started homeschooling. But when I started to change the way that when I was exposed to like Charlotte Mason, classical, I became obsessed with building a picture book nature study library.
That's awesome.
I spent so much money and I would get stuff used and it became this obsession. I have a pretty kick butt picture book library and my oldest one is in junior high now. But still, if he was to read a textbook of something with science or whatever, what would he really get? It would be all boiled down to what's in this stinking picture book right here.
Yes. Yeah, right? Yeah, we could
boil
it down.
And yes, he's reading a direct translation of the Iliad right now. Yeah, so we're not sacrificing academics here. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really great. How would you answer that for you? How have you answered that for your family? Like, why do we go to school? Like, why are we educating these people? If it's not to get a job, be part of this utilitarian vocation system, why?
Yeah. My answer that is not fully complete, because I could spend my lifetime thinking about this, is for me, I keep going back to that an education is the cultivation of a human being. And that we have a responsibility. For me, I believe that responsibility has been given to me by God to raise my children and to grow and trust in Him, learn to grow and trust in Him. Although my platform is non-sectarian, everyone knows who's in Thrive Homeschool Community and who knows me personally. They know that I have a very deep Christian faith and I am a faith-based homeschooler. And when I say that I think an education is the cultivation of a human being, all of it, I mean they're spiritual, I mean they're academic, social, emotional, all of it.
Yeah.
And I think what I love about that, isn't that freeing? Because that allows me to do it how I feel is best for each of my kids. I juggle a lot. Some days I'm in tears over it. But overall, I think that what I love about Charlotte Mason is how much she emphasized that these are people. These kids are precious human beings. And this is a big responsibility that we have. And I just don't believe the schools are doing it right. I just, deep in my heart, I don't.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned, why do we do it? For the tailored academics. We talked about that, right?
Yeah.
That you get to make it be what your kid needs at this thing. We're not going to all fit into this cog and a wheel on a big machine, right?
Yeah.
And that you can instill this love for learning by the literature and the big ideas instead of just stuffing them with a bunch of information, right? And then what I feel like you're talking about now is that this social emotional health that you get from being with your parent
Yeah.
and working through these things together. Is that
Mhm.
kind of one of the other three pillars that
Oh,
you're touching?
1,000%. 1,000%. And I am not happy with what I know based on the research that I had to do for Homeschool Rising on the mental health and emotional health of children in America. And there is no way to say, there is no way anyone can say that the public school environment is a healthy place for a child. You can't say it. When you look at what a healthy socialized child is, in my book, I go over 13 characteristics of a healthy socialized child. Not a single one of those items is a school required to achieve that.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, for example, I could go with bullying, I could go with grades, what grades do to children in terms of
Yes.
pressure and anxiety.
Yeah.
We can talk about academic anxiety because that hits home for
Yeah.
me. I grew up
Yeah.
with that. If you have a kid who, and I do have one of those in my own home, and I was certainly bent towards this way where I had a tremendous amount of academic anxiety. I was very worried about failing. The only reason why I was worried about failing was because I was given this thing called grades.
Right.
And the grades were not put in the proper perspective and in the proper place. Now, don't mistake what I'm saying. My son is in an online class where he is given a grade, but because it's one class and I have the time to have conversations that I don't really care about the grade, I care about you and your effort and your character with it. He knows that the grade is not important. But that's not how that's not the message they're going to get from the schools, from the teachers, and honestly, most parents. I can't tell you how many parties I've been to where when a mom is talking about her kids, not a homeschool family, oh, my kid's a great kid. She has straight A's. She gets straight A's. She's a great kid. And my heart breaks
Yeah.
because that's not what makes a great kid by any stretch. There's a lot of other adjectives that I would use. I would say your kid's a great rule follower. Your kid probably has great reading comprehension. Your kid is great at following directions. There's a lot of other things I would say. And I think that part of this is because I grew up with a sister. I have an older sister, and she has profound learning disabilities. And in the 1980s, first off, girls were rarely diagnosed with anything back then. Even the concept of dyslexia was very new. Many of her teachers would not even accept her dyslexia diagnosis and refused to make accommodations in the school for her and would shame her and things like that. So I grew up with the one benefit is my parents never put a huge they never put a huge emphasis for her on grades. They did on me. They did on me, but not for her. But I was hearing that language, right? I was hearing, and also just with is this a therapy session? But with family dynamics, I didn't want to cause academic problems
Yes,
for
that
my
often
for my
happens.
parents.
Yep.
But this can absolutely turn into a therapy session.
That's okay, girl. I'm a life coach. Let's bring it.
There you go. You get what you get with me, ladies.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
Did I even answer your question?
Yes. Well, I feel like that's like one of the beautiful things actually about homeschooling. And it's funny because, and this is why I just love talking to you because we just go on these rabbit trails and like my ADHD will kick in and we'll be talking about in 5 minutes, but that we are healing ourselves through homeschooling and we're healing our own educational past. So much so in the gift that we're giving to our children is something completely different.
Have you done a podcast on that?
No, but I need to. Thank you. I'm going to write myself a note.
Wait, write it down right now before we forget, because you have ADHD, so you'll forget.
I will. Yes.
I'll remind you. I want that episode. Can you do a whole episode on that? How homeschooling heals us. Can we have a quick moment? Because I talk about this a little bit in my book. I know for a fact I am a better mother because I homeschool, because there's certain behaviors and things that maybe I would have not addressed, but I am faced with them.
Yes.
More consistently.
Yes.
But when I've done the work, Scott and I have gone through, like, you guys don't think that because we're like people that have podcasts that we're perfect. Like, we're not. Scott and I have gone through parenting courses. We really want to we are constantly learning how to do this. And so I think that I am so thankful because of homeschooling, it has spurned, wow, my daily life right now is pretty chaotic, and I'm noticing myself getting really dysregulated. And this isn't the homeschool dreamy life that I see on Instagram. What's wrong? That's led us to parent coaching and things like that. That otherwise, honestly, if my kids were off and I was busy with my career and all of that, I think that there's a lot that I would overlook. I'm not saying that because your kids are in school, you're a bad parent. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm thankful that to make to I'm thankful for the opportunity to cultivate the atmosphere that I want in my home.
Yeah.
It's all about that atmosphere,
Yeah. And
which,
it's such a gift. And I so appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability. And that's something I really strive for on this podcast, of telling people like it is and being like, yeah, I struggle with this, I do that,
yeah,
because we can get this idealized version. And when we have this idealized version of what our homeschooling should be, and then we have
yes,
our reality, it's that gap that leads
yeah,
to our disappointment and discouragement. And so
yeah,
it's no, we are all in this together, but that's the beauty of it. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because I'm
yeah,
working on myself,
yes,
but I'm also helping my kids work on themselves. And that
right,
wouldn't be the case. Like you're saying, we get to see it all the time. Your kids
yes,
are going to, people are like, my kid resists school. My kid doesn't like to do XYZ. And your kid's going to do that whether they're home with you or whether they're in a school, but you get to be the one that helps to coach and walk them through that resistance and get
yes,
them to the other side, rather than having them just sit there all day and being miserable and turning it in on themselves a lot of the time, or they turn it out on other kids through,
right,
their behavior and whatnot.
yeah. And here's a perfect example of what is an education. So yesterday in morning time, okay, in today's morning time, I actually fell asleep while we were listening to a book on tape. Okay, but yesterday I didn't fall asleep. But no, we're reading the Greek myths, and we got to the part about Narcissus and Echo. And here's the difference between what your kid would get in school and the opportunity for social emotional learning when you homeschool. That your kid, schools are now moving into this SEL stuff,
Yes,
social
right.
emotional. It's not like what a parent can do. Like, it's not. So we were talking about the story of Narcissus and how he was, obviously that's where the word narcissist comes from. And he looked in the water and fell in love with himself, and this Echo girl was pining after him. And we had this whole discussion, and I went there with my kids. I said, there's a term for these people, and they exist today, and it's sad, and these are some things that we have to do to manage. And you want to always try to not be in a relationship, like whoever
Right.
you choose to marry one day. You really want to look for signs for this, because it can be a really sad life. I just went there. It's appropriate for their age.
Right.
But if they were going through, even at a Christian school, a unit on Greek myths, would there be that discussion, like that only a mom can have with her daughters? There wouldn't.
Right.
And so, yeah, we learned the thing. I want them to know the Greek myths and the reading comprehension and all of that,
Yes, right.
and the application for lots of things. And also, it opened the door for an amazing discussion. And that's not the only time I have talked to my daughters about narcissists and narcissism. That was one of the times. And we drip. It's like I call it a drip. Like, we drip this social emotional learning with everything we read, everything we do. There was one time where a neighborhood kid came to I actually have a piece of content in my drafts on this, came to our door, sweet kid. And my son was super excited to get his video game time. And it was right at that time where the kid came to the door. And my son said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to play right now because I just got my video game time and I'm really looking forward to," I forget if it was a new game he got or something. But the kid started to gaslight. The kid started to say, "You don't like me," and going into some manipulative language. And no one knew I could hear. I was around in the other room, but I heard it. Now, as soon as my son closed the door, I said, "Hey, I wanted to honor his video game time because it's within a time limit." So I said, "I want to talk about that conversation." I was able to talk about that conversation, and he's older, so I actually said the word gaslight, what this means, that type of a thing. I did not throw that other kid under the bus. I did not do that. Why would I do that? He's a little kid. But I'm like, these are unhealthy things that people do in conversations, right? So you don't get that kind of in the moment thing when your kid is in school, and they experience those conversations, but parents never know about them. And then often kids forget to even ask about them after.
Oh yeah, they
So
forget. Yeah, they don't.
anyway,
No,
yeah.
that's great. I think that's beautiful. And people ask me all the time, do you offer discussion questions to go with each of the books? And I said, I always say no. And the key is your child narrates. They're going to put it in their own
Yes.
words. They're going to make it their own. Every kid is different. So you'll get a million different things from each kid. I said, but the discussion has to happen and be led by the spirit. I don't
Yeah.
want to give you a discussion question of, so what do you think about people that look at themselves in the mirror too much? It has to be led in the spirit
Yes.
by
Yeah.
the parent.
Yeah.
And that's why the parent is involved, or the kid comes to you and they're like, Mom, I read this and it reminded me of this news story we saw about so. And you have this
Yes.
natural discussion because that's real life. I don't need to give you four
Yes.
questions that you ask at the end of every reading because that's not natural. That's not real life. And
Yeah.
again, everyone has their own views of what tools they need and what they
Yeah.
want in their
Yeah.
education. I'm not saying that, but I think it's a beautiful gift that we have, that we can have those
Yes.
discussions, and to see that as a gift, not as
Right.
a waste of time or this is the purpose of it. These discussions,
Right.
that is the education.
Like those discussions. Okay, so when I was a teacher, kids would ask me questions and I would have to say, let's hold off on that because I have to cover this.
Yes.
And with homeschooling, we have that gift of, wait a minute, this is way more important than what I was going to cover. This is an opportunity where a life skill is applicable because they've done studies that we remember what we have an emotional attachment to. That's
Yep.
why Charlotte Mason loved those living books. That's why reading The Hiding Place is like an amazing way to learn about the Holocaust.
Yes.
Rather than through a textbook that just says what was done.
Right.
And so we have that opportunity to drop everything and realize what is the most important thing. Let's prioritize what is most important. Balancing that with, I know the pressure, but Christy, I'll always be behind. I do think that there are some subjects where we can
Yeah.
I do like my kids on track with their math. I like my kids on track with their reading. But other than math and literacy, the R's, I do want my kids to have rhetoric. I want them to know how to write really well. But if I can teach them those things, the rest is just icing.
Yeah.
It's not as important as those other pieces, and it's very freeing, but I fight every day. I fight every day. Do you still? Or are you totally free? Are you so advanced that you're like,
No, my kids are all older now.
you
So
guys, I don't know if you're watching this. No, I've totally arrived.
no, that is not true. I have not arrived
I know.
at
I'm
all.
giving you a hard time.
But I think having all teenagers now,
Yes.
there is just a flow and ease, and that is probably me being 20 years in and going, yeah,
Yes.
it's gonna be okay.
You also have the proof in the pudding, which a lot of mamas who are starting out don't.
Yeah,
Like you actually know
that's
they're
this
going to,
point has been through the trenches to get to that point.
you know they're gonna be okay.
Yeah, and so we
So
could go off on this tangent and do whatever, and it's gonna be okay.
yes.
And so, yes, but it takes trust to get there. I want to close, and I love you so much. I could just talk to you forever. But I just reading this page from your book because I want everyone to hear this. I'm not gonna read all of
Not
it.
a whole page.
I'm not gonna read the whole page. I'm just gonna read parts
Okay.
of it because, like I
And now I'm
said,
scared.
it's like a homeschool manifesto. One of the things I tell parents is very important to write out what you believe about yourself and how you are showing up in your homeschool. Because again, that negative thinking is so programmed into us. And so I love how you worded this on this page. Who is the best person to impart your family values to your child? You are. Who can tailor instruction to fit your child's exact learning style? You can. Who can encourage a lifelong love of learning and foster their creativity? You can. Who has the freedom to choose the exact method by which you educate your child? You do. Who has the patience, deep understanding of the precise factors and influences and knows exactly how to best accommodate your child's special needs? You do. Who is the most interested in your child avoiding a 7-hour school day and homework because you value precious time? You are. And I think people needed to hear that. And I love the way that you worded that.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
All right. So how can people get your book and how can people connect with you?
My book is on Amazon. It is called Homeschool Rising by Christy-Faith. That's me. And grab it on Amazon. My website is christy-faith.com. People don't realize that I have a hyphen. It's christy-faith.com and you can access everything there. And of course, I'm Christy Faith on all the socials as well. So if you just put in, I think on Instagram, I'm Christy-Faith Homeschooling. On TikTok, I'm just Christy-Faith. So you'll find me. And
Yeah, and we'll put all this in the show notes too.
yeah.
So if they
Yeah.
are TikTokers, they might already know you, but they should go follow your account.
Yeah, I'm so excited for my TikTok tribe to hear this and then learn more about you, because I love what you're doing in this space. We use your morning time. It's precious. I love that you've done the work for me. Thank you. And I'm able to
And
give
I
my
love
kids
that you've done all this research and have all these facts, because I
there
don't.
you
So it
go.
worked out really well.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, this was so fun to be on your podcast. Thanks for
Yes,
inviting me.
of course. Thank you. Hey there, Julie Ross here. I just wanted to say thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like this show, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a positive review in iTunes. This really does help people learn about the podcast. And each month I will pick a winner to receive a free gift. Don't forget to check out all the free resources we created for you at thefeastlife.me. Thank you.